The Raven author left New York City in 1849 bound for Richmond, but only made it as far as Baltimore, where a passer-by noticed the delirious and incoherent writer slouched in front of a bar on October 3rd. He was taken to a nearby hospital, where he died 4 days later. The local newspaper attributed his death to congestion of the brain, then a common euphemism for alcohol poisoning. But scholars later discovered that rumors of his drug and alcohol abuse were greatly exaggerated, especially by vindictive literary critics like Rufus Wilmot Griswold. The death certificate, if it ever existed, cannot be found. Some historians believe Poe may have suffered from rabies, cholera, or syphilis. But because he turned up on the streets the same day as a citywide election, others argue that Poe fell victim to cooping, a fairly common practice back then in which corrupt politicians paid thugs to kidnap men, especially the homeless, drug them, disguise them, and drag them to polls all over the city or state. This may at least explain why Poe turned up in Baltimore wearing clothes that weren't his.
Since August 2007, 5 human feet have washed ashore near Vancouver, British Columbia. No bodies, no heads, no clothes, just feet, 4 left, 1 right, nearly all still clad in sneakers. Canadian authorities have yet to determine how the feet ended up there or why, though DNA tests matched one of the severed feet to a man who'd been missing for several months. A number of theories have been tossed around, including the possibility of foul play, though coroners familiar with the case say ocean currents and decomposition could have naturally separated the feet from their owners. Others speculate the remains might belong to 4 unrecovered victims of a 2005 plane crash off Quadra Island. In June, a prankster spooked local authorities by planting a gruesome surprise for one unwitting beachgoer, a rotting animal paw stuffed inside an Adidas shoe. The most recent discovery was made in November, when another foot turned up in Washington, less than 50 miles south of the US-Canadian border. As to why there have been so few leads, police spokesperson Charlene Brooks told CNN, "We suffer from the CSI effect. People think we can do things faster than we can." But a Vancouver panhandler told Bloomberg News he's already cracked the case. "I'll bet you it was murder. You just don't find feet lying around."
Hollywood's most famous murder case unfolded on January 15, 1947, when the raven-haired 22-year-old actress Elizabeth Short was found dead on Norton Avenue between 39th and Coliseum Streets in Los Angeles. Her body had been cut in half and appeared to have been drained of blood with precision. The murderer had also cut 3-inch gashes into each corner of her mouth, creating a spooky, clown-esque smile. Short's murder quickly became a sensation, not only because of its location in the show-biz capital, but also because the police worked in tandem with the press to disseminate clues in hopes of locating a suspect. Several people confessed, only to be later released for lack of evidence. Much speculation surrounded the details of Short's life. Grieving after the death of a man she fell in love with, she reportedly befriended many men while frequenting jazz clubs, making it nearly impossible to pin down who she could have been with before she died. Her unsolved murder has spawned several movies, television specials, and books. One such account was written by Steve Hodel, who implicated his own father, a Los Angeles doctor, as the Black Dahlia murderer. No charges were ever filed.
"I like killing people because it is so much fun." So began one of the many encrypted letters sent to San Francisco newspapers by the man who called himself the Zodiac. For most of 1969, a serial killer terrorized Bay Area residents, killing 5 and possibly more. It started on December 20th, 1968, when a couple was shot to death while sitting in a car on a lover's lane. The killer would strike several more times over the next 10 months, shooting a couple in a public park, trussing up and stabbing yet another man and woman near a peaceful lake, and shooting a cab driver in the head. What made the case so fascinating, though, was the way he toyed with police and reporters. He called in several of the murders and began to send coded letters to newspapers, using a cross within a circle as his symbol. At one point, he mailed in a piece of blooded shirt to prove he was who he claimed to be. Another time, he threatened to shoot up a school bus full of children. The investigation went on for years. Several suspects were considered and questioned, but to no avail. The Zodiac was never caught. The story continues to terrorize people to this day. See David Fincher's masterful 2007 film.